How's it going, folks? My name's KGOKev, as you probably know, and in this video I'm going to be giving my thoughts, impressions, and overall opinion on the new visual novel death game, Inescapable. No rules, no rescue. Thank you very much to the developers of the game for gifting me a copy. Alright, folks. Now, I want to start this video out by saying that I'm not really a reviewer. This is my first time really doing a video in this kind of style, so do let me know how I do, as I am interested in doing more videos akin to this one. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and stick around if you enjoy the video. With all that said, folks, let's begin. Alrighty, y'all. Let's talk about Inescapable. Inescapable is a new indie visual novel published by Axis Games and developed by Dreamloop Games. This one's been on my radar for a while now, and from the initial previews and more, it definitely looked to have potential. The premise of Inescapable is that a colorful cast of characters are kidnapped and forced to partake in a reality show death game where the survivor takes home 500,000 euros. Basically $500,000 for my Americans out there. The catch, though, is that there are apparently no rules, and the game has many potential outcomes tailored to the choices that you make throughout the game. You play from the POV of Harrison, a bloke from the UK who has an interesting fashion sense, you could say. And from his perspective, it is up to you, the player, to determine his thoughts, actions, and ultimately the outcome of the narrative. It is up to you for both which of the other characters you decide to end up trusting in this game, and the lengths that you're willing to go to make it to the end. Some other characters include Mia, a well-mannered young woman from Germany who looks to be the heroine type that you form a quick friendship with at the start of the game. Giovanni, a big buff Italian man with an unrefined but jovial demeanor. Annika, who talks in the third person and is basically just like an anime maid or something like that. And Don the man, from the Netherlands. Now, as you could probably tell from the premise, gameplay, promotional material, etc., Inescapable is heavily inspired by other death games. You got Zero Escape. I mean, the name's essentially a dead ringer for Uchikochi's work, ain't it? I remind some folks of like Your Turn to Die, but the work that this game draws the most parallels to would of course be Danganronpa. Presentation-wise, from the character sprites, dialogue, character writing, the setup, the bulk of it is very much reminiscent to Danganronpa. Even the pink blood shows up as well. For the game's intended audience, the death game formula is one we're all too familiar with, especially if you've been on my channel in any extended capacity. Where the game begins to try to differentiate itself, though, from the premier examples of the genre, is the idea of there being no rules. Which doesn't just mean that people can start killing each other Battle Royale style. What it does mean, basically, is that, allegedly, you could take this game the Undertale route and make it to the end without there being any bloodshed. No one has to die during the course of the game. You know, like, the choice is yours if you want to have a traditional Danganronpa-esque death game, or if you instead want to play more like Danganronpa's Island mode. You could get to know each and every one of the other characters. Or you can go out of your way to purposely neglect that one character that you really don't like. You could uncover the deepest, darkest secrets of Don the Man with 2 A's. Or you can advance time and just go fishing. Make friends, make enemies, or play Wordle. It's up to you. The game is not a traditional visual novel. Even though it seems like Danganronpa from the onset, if you go into it expecting a by-the-books death game, you are going to be disappointed. Inescapable is more along the lines of a visual novel experience that's primarily character-driven, with many slice-of-life moments, not so much a murder mystery thriller. So your overall enjoyment of the game is primarily going to come from how much you enjoy the cast as a whole, and the interactions between each of them. The game very much takes its time as well to tell its story, and you're going to know pretty early on whether or not you're going to enjoy it. Alrighty, folks. At this point now in the video, I'm just going to start talking about things that I enjoyed about the game, and also things that I think that could have been done a bit better. First things first, let's talk about one of the most important parts about this game, its characters. I found this game's cast to be ultimately hit or miss. There are some standouts for sure that I did enjoy the presence of, but I definitely wasn't a fan of some of the character writing, mostly the ones who talked in like a gimmicky fashion, or came across as one note with a single character trait. This applies to the characters' designs as well. Some of them are really good, others not so much. You know, they run the gamut of being maybe a little too simplistic, or maybe trying a little too hard, but then of course you got the ones that are just right. But that said, the art and character sprites and expressions and everything in that vein overall, I do find very appealing. They're very expressive, and I do find them to be relatively charming. The CGs in this game are absolutely beautiful, though ultimately I do wish that we had more of them in the game. There's definitely a couple scenes where it's like, with the characters just talking to each other back and forth, it's okay. But with an added CG or like a visualization of what's occurring, it would have made a lot of the scenes much more meaningful, instead of one that you might struggle to remember than otherwise. The interactions between the characters is definitely one of the more positive parts about the game. Some characters are definitely more interesting than others, at least, the early parts of the game, and apparently a lot of them are not what they seem. Your opinion on them will very much change over time, as you spend time with them, or uncover their deepest, darkest secrets. There's an entire aspect of the game about building up points in order to unlock gossip / dirt on some of the different characters, which provides details and interesting background to each of the characters. A lot of it kind of messed up, which not only affected my opinion on some of the characters, both in a positive and negative way, it was also an incentive for me to build those points to learn more of the debauchery / degeneracy that these characters got into in the past. Ultimately, there's not much that you can really do with this knowledge, but it is interesting to learn, I guess. Shouts to my man Don. He's a simp. He wears sexy undies. He sent a dick pic to his mom. He donated sperm, but then stole it back. He came. He saw. He took it back. The writing was competent, but some scenes definitely went on for a little too long. Some of the humor was pretty good. The character Sasha actually has a line involving cactuses, which has lingered in my mind, I will say. Humor, of course, is subjective, though, so if you don't enjoy Danganronpa's type of quirky character humor or puns and the like, you're probably not going to be a fan of it. The voice acting work is fine for the most part. Some standouts for sure, and they ultimately do fit the characters, although a couple performances and line deliveries are occasionally off. It's overall passable, though, and it does not take you out of the experience or break the immersion. It's no Megan Fox in Mortal Kombat type of scenario. One thing that's pretty cool about the game is that each of the characters hail from different countries. It seems that they got native speakers to voice act each of the characters. I have friends from, say, Sweden, Portugal, the UK, and all of them were pleasantly surprised to hear how authentic the VA work / the accents were. Some of the writing / slang used may have had some minor errors here and there, or may be a little too stereotypical, but otherwise, they enjoyed being represented in a way that you don't often see. The UI is very sleek. It looks very nice. I really enjoyed the game on the presentation side of things. A general complaint that I have for the game is when you have autoplay on for the dialogue. When transitioning from one scene to the next, oftentimes you'll have to toggle the autoplay button again. It doesn't carry over from scene to scene. You'll have to click that button again every single time you move from one part of the story to the next. The point of having auto-click on is to not have to click, so a change to that would be a very much appreciated quality of life improvement. Other visual novels also have the option to, check the audio log, or whatever you would call it, to reread advanced text, which this game does have, but it does not allow you to replay any voice lines the characters say that you may have missed, or want to hear a second time. Again, another little thing that would help the overall experience. There's a variety of different minigames / activities to shake up the gameplay, or to just pass the time, really, including arcade games or a fishing activity, and those I did actually have fun with overall. The music is good for the most part. Nothing that really sticks for me personally, but notably, composer Shinji Hosoe, who also goes by the name Megaten, is involved with the music of the game, aka the composer behind games such as Tekken, Naruto Clash of Ninja, which was a pleasant surprise to me, and Zero Escape. So it's no wonder that the music ends up working overall. Now, when it comes to the potential for multiple paths in this game, and I guess in turn the overall structure of the game, I do think it could have been executed better in a lot of respects. The idea is to stay on the island for 6 months' time, which can be spent however you want, essentially. There will be times when there's dialogue choices and main story cutscenes, I guess. But for the times in between, you're free to do as much or as little as you desire. This is very much like in Danganronpa or Persona, where you'll have moments for free time to hang out with the rest of your cast. That freedom, though, in this game, doesn't work too well, I feel. It's hard to tell a lot of times when you're actually having an impact on the narrative through action or inaction. A lot of times it just kind of feels like the game's telling you, just wait and see. You're just kind of going scene by scene a lot of times where you're interacting with the characters, but not really advancing the plot, but you have that promise of excitement in the future. As long as you get through a couple hours of dialogue first, that sadly not everyone is going to enjoy. In regards to getting to know the characters or progressing through the narrative, I do think this game is missing a couple of needed indicators that are present in other games that indirectly tell the player that things are moving along in a meaningful way. Also to keep track of how much they've done or how far they are in the game. Things like the social links of Persona, the hope shards in Danganronpa, or the flowchart in Zero Escape. For a first-time player, either new or even seasoned to the genre, you're gonna need stuff like that. All these are visual cues to the player. Stuff like that helps to keep players on track, not feel lost, follow the story, and, again, a necessary incorporation that I think that this game is unfortunately lacking. How close am I to getting the achievements? How close am I to becoming Mia or Don's bestie? It's kind of hard to tell outright. You can only really infer based on the dialogue. and even then you don't really know how far along you are. Characters that like you will, I guess, text you more and stuff, but I do think that having a traditional means to check your progress throughout the game, or with the characters, would help to keep the audience engaged. While socializing with your fellow survivors is a big part of the game, it can sometimes just feel like filler, regardless if it's entertaining or not. You really need to hook players, especially in these heavy reading-based experiences, and sadly, I do think the pacing is too slow in the beginning in particular, that while there is something here with the characters and dialogue, it will ultimately be alienating for a lot of people, especially those who had preconceived notions of it being like other death games. Ultimately too, again, your overall enjoyment of the game is going to be dictated around how much you care about or like our cast of characters. The game is a very competent effort. It's definitely got a lot of heart and effort put into it, but it's not going to be for everyone. I think I would recommend it primarily to those who are heavy lovers of the genre, not just specifically death game lovers, but just visual novels as a whole. It's not a traditional death game despite the Danganronpa-esque presentation. It's a different take on the formula, with slice-of-life elements and character interactions at the forefront. So if you go into it with an open mind, are willing to look past some of its faults, and you can put up with the often slow pacing, if you like what you've seen, consider keeping this one on your radar. Inescapable, No Rules, No Rescue is available on all platforms. Thank you folks so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, let me know what you thought. And with all that said, this is KGOKev, signing out. Peace out for now. Have a good one.